Fantasize with me for a moment. Wouldn't it be nice if all you had to do to learn Spanish was to listen to Spanish? That the very act itself of listening to Spanish taught you Spanish. But that's just a fantasy. The reality is, learning Spanish would require a lot of time, hard work, and dedication. And what's worse, you will need to study for dozens or hundreds of hours before you can be presented with a piece of Spanish content you can understand. There is fantasy and there is reality. But what if you could make fantasy a reality? What if I told you that there exists Spanish stories that can teach you Spanish from just listening to the stories? Introducing Cascade Spanish. Cascade's goal is to make learning Spanish feel like a fantasy. How does it do that? Cascade uses a two-phase approach. Phase 1. The first step of Phase 1 is teaching you a few Spanish words and concepts. The first step lasts for about 20 minutes or so. Then you are given a short story written using only words and concepts you have been taught. Since the story is only made up of words you have been taught, your comprehension of it is expected to be very high. Note how this is something historic. No other product can give you a piece of Spanish content this quickly with assurances that you will understand it. Let's continue. Next, you are taught a few more words and again given a story written using only the words you have been taught. And again, and again, and so on and so on. Altogether, Phase 1 contains 7.5 hours of lessons audio and 17 stories. Then we move to Phase 2. Unlike Phase 1, Phase 2 does not contain lessons. It only consists of stories. This is where the fantasy is brought to reality. Phase 2. Phase 2 gives you a story, then another, and so on and so on. These are not ordinary stories. These are special Spanish stories. There are two things that make the stories special. 1. Around 90% of the words in any story will be words you have been taught. 2. The stories are vocabulary teaching systems. New words are introduced in the stories and repeated across the stories at a rate that is designed to teach you the new words from you just consuming the stories. No dictionary, no flashcards. Learn new words by just consuming Spanish stories. And that is how Cascade Spanish makes learning Spanish feel like a fantasy.